we move on to the big debate as promised to you. Now, viewers, how many of you resort to online or ordering food online via our mobile app or via the internet on your desktop? And in how many of those times do you order food from someplace new that you've never visited? In simpler words, how many of you are regular users of apps like Swiggy, apps like Zomato, apps like Uber Eats? Now, here is why I ask you this question. In the last few weeks, these apps have delisted hundreds of restaurants, not by their own will, but because they were caught serving us unhygienic food, unchecked food from restaurants that were not even licensed. In India, the Foods and Drugs Administrator, the FDA in each state, is in charge of checking the eateries. Only when all the norms are followed do they get a license to run that place. But of course, there are hundreds of eateries that crop up every now and then and sell food illegally. The fact of the matter is, these apps were serving food from these places. In many cases, the food was unhygienic, the kitchen conditions were unhygienic, the norms were not being followed to give you good quality of food. So the big question that I want to ask tonight is, what is the assurance that the food that you and I are ordering, sitting in the comforts of our homes and offices, is good quality food if we go via these apps? I mean, if you're at the restaurant, you can see the state of the restaurant and the kitchen. You can ask for the license certificate. What do you do when you order it remotely? Who is checking all this? Is there a good enough strong system in place? Because, well, for months and months together, these online apps have done their business. Thousands of restaurants have come on these apps and served us food, and God only knows what we have ended up consuming. This is a show where your voice gets counted. Call up and share your views. We begin this debate on the other side of this report.
If you are one of those who orders meals daily using food delivery apps, be careful of where you order from. Delivery apps like Swiggy and Zomato are facing the heat from Food and Drugs Regulator for tying up and serving food from unlicensed outlets.
Ever since we put out that story in October, they have been maintaining that they've delisted all of these restaurants that did not have license. In fact, several of them were applied subsequently, we understand, and they got licenses as well, about 82 of them out of 122. But FDA officials tell us that that is not relevant at this point. The fact is that these companies did not comply. They tied up with these unlicensed restaurants in the first place. Hence, they will hear these cases, and a maximum penalty of 2 lakh rupee each will be levied on them.
Not only has the Maharashtra FDA came down heavily on food delivery apps, it had also asked 122 eateries listed on online food delivery platforms to shut shops by issuing stop business notices with immediate effect.
See, when we did the whole exercise of checking about 350 and odd outlets, we realized that about 115 did not have the licenses. So as per the Food Safety Act, where they don't have the licenses, you're not supposed to do any business with such people where they don't have license or registration.
Mirror Now wrote to Swiggy and Zomato asking them about the adjudication cases filed against them, for which both delivery apps responded, saying that they had delisted many restaurants following the notice, and now were putting in systems to ensure hygiene and quality control is followed. But tonight we ask, how safe is the food you order? Are delivery apps delivering unhealthy food? Let's debate.
Let's say good evening to our panelists. RJ Abhi, who's an RJ with Radio Mirchi, is joining us this evening. I also have Tulsi Patil, who's a student who's with us in our Mumbai studios. Bharat Malkani, Advisory Council, FHRAI. Makran Narvekar of the BJP also with us, because we're going to try and see what better regulations also we can bring about. But I'm going to go across to Tulsi Patil first and ask her, what she thinks of these revelations and how often does her and her circle of friends order from these apps.
Okay, thank you for your question, Tanvi. So, starting with as a college student, you know, when we go to college, we stay there for sometimes 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day working for, you know, projects. And then we have no choice but to order food from outside. And we can't afford to spend thousands of rupees every single day. So, we choose these delivery apps because we have trust in them. But when things like this come up, we realize that it's so dangerous and it really betrays our trust as citizens, as consumers when companies do this. And it just goes to show that corporations don't really care about what we're consuming. They don't really care if we're having hygienic food. So what is important for us now is to really step up and take action against these companies. They have to face consequences for endangering all of us as consumers and also the health of this nation. We don't know what has been going on for so long. We don't know what we have been eating, and it's a very scary situation to be in as a student who has to consume food from outside every single day. Thank you.
Yes, I completely agree with you there. Abhi, what is your view? Or let me just ask you this. When you order from any of these apps, what are the things that you look out for? Because I'm sitting here and trying to think if I actually check what are the guarantees, certificates that a Zomato or even a Swiggy is telling me about.
So first off, thank you for having me, Tanvi. And like the panelist before me just said, it is a question of trust. Now, I'll be the first person to admit that, you know, I've put my health at risk at times, you know, when it comes to eating questionable food, whether you go outside or a thela or, you know, whether you find roadside snacks. But when the question comes of trusting an app with this kind of choice, you know, we expect as consumers that there should be at least some form of quality check by them that, you know, if they're associating themselves with a particular establishment, is it even up to code? Is it serving food? Because that food experience that the customer enjoys is going to dictate how the customer feels about that app in particular, right? So this promise has to come from the side of the people who are managing these apps, that if they're associating themselves with a particular business, then they need to make sure that that business is not endangering their customers, right? If they're doing it, it's a very flawed business model. And of course, the simple question is that the people will not play Russian roulette with their health. Right. So you can make a conscious decision to go visit a local spot, but if you're ordering something, if you're paying your money, then you're placing your trust in that company. Right. That is bringing that food to you, in which case it happens to be these apps. And if they can't live up to it, then they're not really accomplishing their objective as a service to the people.
Yes, and you know, in businesses, loss of trust is one of the most crucial things, especially a business like this, where we are not able to see what the kitchen looks like, what the restaurant looks like, how much of their rules they're following. And so we trust a brand when we use that, and that becomes the most important fact. I just also want to say, read out what Swiggy had to say in its response, that Swiggy is in full compliance of Food Safety and Standard Act rules. In compliance of the notice issued by the Central FSSAI, all unregistered restaurants have been delisted from Swiggy as of 3rd October 2018. It had to take a notice issued by a government authority, by a regulator, for this app to realize, oh wait, we can't serve you food from a place that's not even registered with the government. Zomato's response, and it's a long one, but I'm going to read a few excerpts of it right now as the rest of it plays out on the screens. Our long-held mission is better food for more people, and we feel very strongly about food safety and hygiene. We have been taking stringent steps towards making sure that all the restaurants on our platform are fully compliant. But listen to what they say next. We are working with FSSAI and have already delisted thousands of restaurants from our food ordering platform over the past few months. Thousands of restaurants. This is shocking. Let's say good evening to Dr. Pallavi Darade. She's the Commissioner for FDA in Maharashtra. Dr. Darade, we understand that now there will be 22 different adjudication cases that will that the FDA will carry out. For a viewer, for a consumer, please explain to us what that means and what will the authority look at.
In the month of October, we had taken a massive survey in which we had checked 350 outlets of these food portals and food apps, in which we had found that about 122 and odd restaurants did not have the registration or the required licenses in which they are supposed to operate as food businesses. So we had given stop work notices to about 122 such establishments, and now the further action has been taken. The first action was stop work notice, and the second is now, as per the licensing condition, Zomato, Swiggy, Uber Eats or Food Panda, any of the food people, whenever they have to buy anything from any person, that concerned person should also be having registration and licenses. Now in this case, what has happened is, when they have purchased food from these 122 unlicensed and unregistered people, they come under this section, and that's why we have now started the proceedings of adjudication in 22 such cases, in which we have served notices to Zomato and Swiggy in these 22 cases. Of course, further action will go on.
But how is it, ma'am, that they were actually bringing on these unregistered, unlicensed people and serving that food? Because tonight in India, everybody is watching what Maharashtra FDA has discovered and is taking action on. And we are wondering, how did this go unnoticed for all this while? Because Zomato is telling us thousands of such restaurants are on their platform.
Yeah. See, FSSI has pointed this out to them, and I am told 10,500 and odd such restaurants which did not have registration and licenses have been delisted by FSSI, and of course further actions in this would start. But the actions which we have started for adjudication in Maharashtra are the ones we had got checked in the month of October. We have not, we have to yet to take action on the 10,500 restaurants. They are across India, of course. Some of them are in Maharashtra, in Mumbai, in Pune, who were supplying food to these food portals and these food apps.
Yes, absolutely. I would request you to just stay on with us for a few more moments. If there are viewers who have questions for you, maybe you can take some of those. And I have a couple of more queries. But I just want to quickly go across to Bharat Malkani as well. Mr. Malkani, this is also the other concerning part. The fact that there were 10,500 of these eateries who are not registered, who are not being regulated, who are not being checked, who could do a business at such a large level.
So really the issue is very interesting. You know, I represent the Hotel Federation. We've been around for 70 years and we deal with the organized sector. Now, we've been compliant with FSSAI not today, but over the years before the FSSAI, there was the FDA. As a matter of fact, the FHRAI has partnered with the FSSAI for the last 5 years, setting up labs, cleanliness standards and hygiene standards. This is a conscious effort from us, more than 5 years old, and we are currently operating such restaurants. And in the event our own member does not have the regulated FSI leadership, membership, then we tell them that you have to go and get it, otherwise your membership will not be renewed. This is the critical aspect. Now, when you talk about apps, any of these apps, they are not looking at a restaurant. You will be surprised to know most of these restaurants don't even have kitchens. They don't even exist as restaurants. It's comical at best. They are just somebody somewhere who puts food out on an app, because what an app does, it flattens the entire curve. It does not differentiate between quality. It just gives you a price line. What is even more disturbing is that these apps ask for prices that are very low. They give a discount on the food, and furthermore, they ask the commissions to be paid by the restaurants. An average proper operating hotel / restaurant will never agree to such terms and conditions, which is why the bulk of these are from the unorganized sector. You have very few hotels that come from the star rating or the approved hotels that have not been compliant with FSSAI at all. And this is the fundamental difference. What I am representing here on behalf of the entire industry is the Hotel Federation, really the organized sector. But you walk down the streets, you'll be surprised that one of those guys is already registered on the app, sending you something, and then we get the bad term that you go to India, you get Delhi belly. We don't want the term Delhi belly in India. We have a proud and historical cuisine that is phenomenal. And to us, it is critical, and I mean really critical. And that is why, with the FSSAI, we are completely in sync with them.
Yes.
To think about it, you have discovered this today, but we have been doing this for 5 years. We've set up our own labs in Mumbai. We've set up our labs in Ahmedabad, Vadodara. We've set up our labs in Chennai, in Delhi, where we encourage all our members to send their food over on a regular basis, not one-off, a regular basis. Check the quality of the food, the milk, the sugar, whatever, and then we train them. The training is part of the Hotel Federation's membership. So there's a big difference in how we operate our businesses and how the apps operate. But we are not in control of the apps. The apps, anyone can go online, upload, I'm a kitchen, I'm a restaurant, and start buying from there.
Well,
and
you know,
lies the difference.
That's an interesting angle that you have raised, because when you're ordering from these apps, you're probably not exactly picturing a thela on the road that nobody is keeping a quality check of, and there's just food hanging there and then being packed and being served to us. But then, because we are just looking at what the menu says and maybe a couple of pictures that could be from anywhere, it is a concern. So I think now Swiggy and Zomato and the others will have to work much harder to regain our trust and come up with special, exercises to ensure that they know who they're bringing out on the platform. Mr. Makrand, here is where you come in as a representative of the government as well. What can the government further do to ensure that such instances don't happen again?
Yeah, I think the government is very much committed to ensuring that safe, secure, and hygienic food reaches to the citizens. And which is why, if you see, the FDA has cracked heavily upon these kitchens. I wouldn't call them restaurants, but they are more like kitchens. And 10,500 have been delisted, 22 cases have been filed, 122 have been asked to stop work. So having done this, I think the government is ensuring that the evolving markets that are there today, like these online suppliers of food, are well within the ambit of law. And which is why now, if you see in the days to come, there will be things like, audits, conducting audits, you're displaying the licenses of even these kitchens that are there, your hygiene rating. So I think the government is definitely committed on ensuring that secure and hygienic food reaches its citizens.
Yeah, well, in fact, at this point, I just want to go back to Dr. Darade. And Dr. Darade, we also, Mirror Now reported that 74% restaurants in Mumbai are violating basic hygiene and the basic food standards. Now, this is a humongous task even for the state FDA, where in a city where there are lakhs of eateries. How do you keep a check? What kind of strength, what kind of system would you need?
This is another massive action which FDA has taken. What we had done is that we have some 200 and odd food safety officers, and they have particular jurisdictions. So all the food safety officers were asked to check the most popular and the most top restaurants across Maharashtra. So that amount to about 4,000 of restaurants across Maharashtra. And out of these 4,000, we have now checked 3,006 restaurants. And after checking these 3,006 restaurants, we came to a conclusion that 2,600 and odd restaurants required to be issued improvement notices. You see, there are various licensing conditions attached to the licenses which we are given. Now, these big restaurants and popular restaurants do have our licenses and registrations. But then that having only license or registration is not essential. You have to also follow the conditions, because the conditions are finally for the well-being of the people. Now, what are these conditions? The conditions are that, of course, the kitchen should be hygienic, the restaurant should be hygienic, medical checkup should have been done of the persons who are serving food or cooking food, pest control should have been there, the water that is being served or used for cooking should be potable, that should be tested, the reports should be kept, then the basin should be clean, the utensils should be clean, the store should be proper, the fridge should be properly maintained. So all these things in many of the restaurants were not followed, and we have issued improvement notices in about 2,600 top restaurants across Maharashtra, and of course the further work is going on.
Yes, I think it's also essential to maybe highlight the fact that when you see the rating of a restaurant on this app, this probably is not a rating which is reflective of what the authorities have checked and found, because most of these apps have a very user-oriented, democratic way of giving a feedback, and maybe that's why nobody thinks of it, Tulsi. But it seems that the restaurants are only depending on what you and I think of the food we're eating without looking at how it's being made.
On that, I'd just like to add something on that.
Hello, I'm not able to.
So when we talk about them being, user-based, what we also must take into account is it's very easy for companies and restaurants to get fake reviews. So again, when we actually go to that place and we see that it's much different than what the rating actually says, it is a problem, right? Because that just goes to show that there's no actual checks being done. So I think these apps should go a complete change in infrastructure in the way they function to ensure that not only the hygiene rating, but even the user, feedback that they receive is not just based on, the taste and all of those things, but users are made aware of other factors, like what kind of oil do they use in their food. All of these things must be brought to our attention because they are impacting our health in much bigger ways than just one. Thank you.
Yes, in fact, that's a very interesting point, and maybe Dr. Darade could take a note of this, because these are the concerns of the consumers who are using these apps. Yes, Mr. Malkani, go ahead, please.
It's very important you understand what rating the FSSAI/FDA gives us is based on hygiene and quality. The apps run a rating based on popularity and discounting. They are completely opposite to each other. So if you have the lowest price food X, let's call that food pizza, from some unorganized sector or organized sector, as the case may be, and because they get the maximum sales at a price point, the apps push them up in the rating. But when the FSSAI of the FDA comes in, they give a rating purely based on hygiene. Now, we're not talking about food taste here. Taste is a matter of conjuncture. But are you clean? Are you safe? Are you hygienic? And what we were telling, as the FHRI, because we've had a continuous discussion with all the app providers, is that there is no way that we are willing to accept that you will go and rate us based on your popularity, but on the standards that we promote. But that was something unacceptable to them. Finally, thanks to FSSAI, this action was taken.
Yes, but is there a way of then maybe forcing these apps to also put out these details of a restaurant? Can that be done? Mr. Narvekar, can the government come out with a regulation that ensures this?
Why not?
Mr. Narvekar?
I think it is very important for, if you...
Yes, go ahead, please. No, go ahead, please. I'm just asking you, is there a way that the government can ensure that a Swiggy or a Zomato also gives me the rating and the details of the registration and audits that may have been done by the government authorities?
Yes, which is why I think, to ratings is, if it's more democratic. But if you see, I mean, one thing that that will show good effect is having these licenses which are issued by the FDA displayed on the sites, where if a consumer wants to place an order with for a particular dish, he knows that it is coming from this particular kitchen. It is being and that kitchen has the required licenses. If you see today, our rules and our acts are such that even a panwala, on the street is licensed. And with these evolving markets, with these online companies delivering food, I think these measures will definitely show good results.
Well, in fact, many of our viewers are asking right now, why won't these, why isn't there any representative of any of these apps who's here? One would hope that maybe they do talk to us. For now, our interaction is only limited to queries that we send them and the statements that I have read out, which are more about how they are cooperating with the government and the authorities in delisting these many restaurants which were on their app. Abhi, you wanted to come in? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add in something now. I don't know about the other panelists here, but I've actually worked as a waiter in an organized pizza place. And it is from there that I got the inspiration of an idea that I just wanted to share. So, in this particular franchise that I worked in, standards of hygiene were considered paramount. There would not be any food that would go to a consumer that could be possibly tainted in any way. Now, of course, times change, employees change, conditions change, right? But one way that they managed to make sure that the quality of the food that was always on par was to have surprise checks by having, let's say, customers who were unknown to us but were known to the management, who would come, who would make periodical checks of the food, let's say a particular restaurant was serving, and they would assign it a particular grade. Now, if I'm a consumer, if I'm someone who uses this app, maybe wading through a lot of information might turn me off. But if I know that there is a certified grade that is regularly updated, that is provided to these restaurants, and it is, reflected on all the various platforms they're available on, then that might help in at least, building my trust as a consumer in the restaurants themselves, and of course the apps that, then bring that food to me.
Yes. Well, that's a fair point. Let's also bring in a few of our viewers and see what they have to say. Mani is on the phone line from Mumbai. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi there. I think I'd like to make 3 points, please. First of all, I think these revelations are really rather unfortunate, and it's just a lesson to all of us. I personally am okay with any kind of food, and I'm born and brought up in Bombay, so I'm used to it. But I will certainly think twice before ordering food from, say, a Swiggy or a Zomato for my 9-year-old and 12-year-old. That's I think one thing. The second, I think, is more to the student on your panel, and that's like, I mean, we Bombayites especially are known to be a fairly resilient lot. So if we've come a full circle from using cloth bags to using plastic bags and back to using cloth bags, I'm sure the good old lunchbox is something which we can resort back to if this problem gets any worse. And finally, to the BJP panelists on your program, this is a contrived argument, but please bear me out. The answer to unemployment and the friendly pakoda wala outside the studio is kind of oversimplifying the problem. That some of these parameters also need to be taken into account,
right? In
terms of licensing and hygiene, etc. We seem to be oversimplifying things, and that I don't think is healthy for us, literally speaking.
Well, Mani, the point that you made to Tulsi about bringing homemade food or eating healthier food is a point that Faye makes to us in the newsroom, and especially to the youngsters in the newsroom all the time about eating healthy food. But there are lots of outsiders who come and stay and study and work in Mumbai or in any other city, because obviously this is not just about Mumbai. And then what do? It's not always a workable solution to have somebody or for you to find the time to cook yourself. So while I do take a point about healthier homemade food, it may not always be possible. I do want to go back to Dr. Darade and ask her, Dr. Darade, what can consumers, what can people like me and Tulsi and Mani and Abhi really do on our end? What should we watch out for?
I believe, the food business operators should be more responsible, because all the responsibility in the Food Safety Act lies on the food business operators. And I believe where we are in an age of a digital age, where everything is transparent and all informations can be exchanged, I think that these food portals and food apps should definitely reflect on their food portals and apps that they are following all the conditions. And maybe any customer who wants to really see as to whether they are following the conditions or not, then they should make the information available. Of course, there's one more thing which FSSI and which FDA Maharashtra is also promoting, that the kitchens of these restaurants should be in some way transparent. I mean, physically transparent, yes, you can put a mirror or a glass in which the customers customers can see that the kitchen is clear. But then at times, if it is not possible, then regular visits of the loyal customers or customers that come to that restaurant by the owners whenever it is convenient for both. I'm not saying in the hectic hour when the work is going on, but then other times when it is not so hectic and when it is both comfortable for the customer and the owner, then the rounds of the kitchen should be taken. So that kind of transparency on the portal, on the apps, and physically across the restaurant, I think would definitely improve these conditions of hygiene and sanitation.
Yeah, Tulsi, you wanted to come in?
Yeah. So when you say that, we have to take checks and ourselves have to go. However, what we need to recognize is that, as college kids, sometimes we order at 12 o'clock at night. And the reason we don't go out is because it's a very dangerous thing to do. So when we expect the food to come in, a lot of times there's no possibility of us actually being able to see the kitchens. Sometimes we don't even know exactly where the kitchen is located. So when you say that, regular checks must be done by us as customers, it is sometimes, not very easy for us to access the kitchens, and which is why I think if the restaurants are on Zomato and Swiggy, they must also conduct these checks regularly, because it is a part of their responsibility, since they are the ones who are making these restaurants more accessible these days.
Yes, I think the accountability has to start from obviously the restaurant owners, to the government,
I'd like to say,
to the hotel associations, to the FDA, and also perhaps a bit more awareness and being careful from the consumers end. But like Tulsi is saying, sometimes it's not possible. Maybe we'll just restrict ourselves to ordering from places where we have visited in the past and just limit it to that. Abhi wanted to come in? Okay, Abhi and then Mr. Malkani.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know why don't we... Yeah, so I just wanted to know, like, as our panelists are saying, that, there needs to be some sort of quality standard. Why don't we incentivize good quality for, like, the restaurants that are not only adhering to standards but are excelling them? Because I believe that if any food business wants to succeed, its hygiene should be a point of pride for it. It should be something that they should revel in, they should cherish, and they should be more than happy to show to their customers that yes, the food that you are receiving is made in the best quality possible. I don't think there can be a better endorsement for any kind of a food brand, right? And if the apps are using this business to generate their own business, then I think it would be in their best interest also to make sure that whatever business they're associating themselves with is incentivized enough to promote, like not only to adhere to the standards as are set by the law, but to exceed them and set an example for the rest of the industry that, this is how good food is made and sent to customers. And I'm pretty sure every customer will always reflect that love back to the company.
So maybe apart from just focusing on cheapest food or fastest delivery or having the most number of restaurants, these apps need to also focus on promoting the rating on a hygiene basis. Let that be a testing criteria. Let that be a category that you then promote and speak about the fact that you are only serving us food from the most hygienic places because you yourself have gone and tested and you are not in some rat race of just adding on restaurants on your platform. Mr. Malkani, to you, and then we go to a viewer.
So our position, is I'm very glad Abhi took up the issue of rating. For us, it is even clear. There is no compromise or there is no war acceptable when it comes to hygiene. We say there has to be a minimum hygiene. Example, and I'm not talking about the 3, 4, 5-star hotels where you normally take it for granted because they are also audited by the Ministry of Tourism. What we're going to tell to the students of this country, especially of the city, almost every member of the Hotel and Restaurant Association Western India is obliged to do an FSSAI certification course. They've almost all attended the course. You can be rest assured that if you're ordering from one of our members, there is almost no chance that you will get food that has not gone through an FSSAI rating.
Okay, before I go to our callers, there are a lot of viewers who are messaging in right now on Involve and on Twitter. And Dr. Darade, they're all asking what kind of action can be taken against these apps because a lot of damage may have been done. You have to set an example. Is there a possibility that you will temporarily maybe suspend until they fix the problem which is there?
Sorry, can you come?
What kind of punishment can a Swiggy or a Zomato face for what they have already done? They may be now removing and delisting these restaurants, but what has already been done, what's the punishment there?
Yeah. So in case of adjudication, we levy some penalty, and the maximum penalty in each case is about 2 lakhs. Since this is quasi-judicial decisions, so the concerned officer will take decision in this, and depending on the situation, up to 2 lakhs in each case is the penalty. And of course, further on, cases in the courts, prosecution may also be launched.
Okay, the prosecution may be launched. This case may also go to the court, but there is for now monetary penalty that the FDA may impose. Prashant is on the phone line from Mumbai. Go ahead, Prashant.
Hi, thanks for all the panelists for actually giving us excellent views on this. I really I agree with Mr. Malkani on the concept of rating for each food joint. Like a corporate, there is a credit rating or which shows the health of a corporate. Similarly, there should be a rating which should be given by FDA, which should be evaluated on various parameters which are related to hygiene and other things.
Yes.
Which will definitely be guiding factor to the consumer before ordering the food. And similarly, there should be a binding obligations on these apps to register those restaurants only with them which are registered with FDA and maintaining the minimum quality of hygiene.
Yeah, but Prashant, I agree with you, but don't you think that should have already been the case?
Excellent.
I mean, why
Correct.
would these apps be bringing in other restaurants who are not registered, who are not licensed, who are not being checked? I mean, that's why we trust them, because we can't personally go there. So they must bring us this hygienic and clean food. Praveen is on the phone line from Bengaluru. Quickly going across to Praveen. Go ahead, please.
Hi, thanks so much for giving me a chance to come on the board. Now, I've been following your news debate for a while now, but the fact is, we have a serious problem now. We have thousands of restaurants across the country, and talking about the food inspectors going and visiting the kitchens and all will not be a practical, proposition. So, in my opinion, I feel with the advanced technology now that is at our disposal, why don't we consider commissioning cameras in each of the kitchens? And those cameras are directly connected to the apps. So the moment you order a food item from a particular restaurant, the kitchen or the picture of that kitchen actually comes on the customer's app, and then he knows exactly how the food is being done.
Yes, that's a good idea, Praveen. Though right now we are far, far away from that. And even as you're speaking, I have viewers writing in from Chennai who are saying that on the app, sometimes the address is also not given in, so they don't even know where this place exists. So maybe on that aspect, viewers now and consumers now should start reading a little bit more and should be a little bit more careful about where they're ordering from on these apps. One can only hope that the FDA, the FSSAI and the government ensure that this is not repeated and that there is strict action, that these apps must be paid for breaking our trust, for taking us for a ride, for serving unhealthy, unchecked food to us. They may be in a race to become the biggest business, to add on the maximum number of clients, to add on the maximum number of restaurants for the fastest delivery, quickest delivery, cheapest food. But at the end of the day, the health of the consumer matters, and it is up to the authorities of the day to ensure that anybody who dares to mess with that is punished for that. The apps are now telling us they have delisted thousands of restaurants in the last couple of months since the government picked up this issue, since the FSSAI picked up this issue. But a lot more needs to be done to ensure that they regain our trust, to ensure that we know that the food that they're serving from are from registered hygienic places. Thank you for joining us on this debate.